Film and television are the bedrock of our current media climate. Never before has there been such a demand for content, whether it be through the big screen, conventional cable networks, or streaming services. And with demand that high, there's always room for new talent.
Hi, I'm Peter Turner.
I'm Marcus Wood. We're the directors of Fire and Iron Productions, and we're going to teach you how to get started in the world of film. In 2017, we set up our company with the aim to develop opportunities for ourselves as working actors and to create exciting new material. We started with nothing but a second-hand GoPro and tons of ambition, but it turns out that's pretty much all you need. Gathering technical know-how, an equally passionate team, and increasingly better equipment as we went, 4 years later we find ourselves positioned and ready to take on the industry at large. When you're starting out, it's worth considering what type of film you want to get involved with. There are many sides to the filmed media industry and many different roles within it. For example, let's compare film sets with videography. The first can contain anywhere between one crew member to a team of over 100 people, typically works in a very stop-start manner, and will film the same thing repeatedly until the desired level of artistic vision has been achieved. In contrast, videography is more orientated towards event coverage, requiring almost continuous filming throughout, and is typically a solo operation, but can still be scaled up depending on the size of the wedding, band gig, theatre production, or the like. Depending on where your skills and interests lie, there are several different aspects to filmmaking that you can build your business around. For us, it was the aspect of our training that we enjoyed the most: telling stories. Now, whether it's making dystopian adverts about somebody's product or making short films about loss and forgiveness, we strive to tell the best stories we can through our work.
Wardens, the inmates, they terrified me. I knew that when I got out, I would not be going back.
Here are some other areas that you could explore getting started in: event coverage, voiceover, ADR and vocal production, location sound recording, 3D animation, 2D animation, stop motion, motion graphics, sound design, Foley, composing, film logistics, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Anyone can get started if you work within your means and strive to get the best out of what you have access to. All the tips we're about to share with you can be used by any founder to create great videos, whether you're looking to get into the film industry or just want to showcase your products or service with good film. Remember, it's important to find your niche if you want to distinguish yourself from the competition. You can branch outwards from there, but having a core aspect of your business that you excel at is vital for making your mark. For us, it's storytelling. For you, who knows?
So as you guys start your career, you're going to start thinking about what kind of equipment you want. And this is where things can get really complex really quickly. Bigger rigs require specialist lenses, power sources, memory cards, and it all gets a bit confusing. The best thing to do is figure out what's the minimum you need to get the job done and stay there.
Getting to an expert level with the gear you have before moving on to something more complicated is better than starting with something top of the range that you're using poorly.
Now, you might be able to get access to equipment through your university and institution, which is fantastic, but if you can't, there are other ways in which you can get yourself started. The important thing is that whatever it is you're using it to the best of its ability. The vast majority of people have phones with amazing cameras, and there are tons of accessories you can buy online to really emphasize these cameras' abilities.
And if you can't get your hands on a camera or a camera phone, there's animation programs, online generators, and even screen capture programs that you can depend on to create materials for you to use in editing together a final product.
There are also options for audio, but this is where things get a bit more complicated. So most beginner filming equipment will record its audio internally as a default, but you can buy external mics to plug in or have a dedicated audio recording system set up separately.
The benefits of doing that are usually producing a cleaner overall sound, but they come at the expense of having to resynchronize the audio to the video when you're editing. So weigh up the pros and cons of how they relate to your core business before deciding your workflow. Lastly, we shouldn't forget about additional sound recording options, such as overdubbing or ADR, sound creation, and of course, writing music.
Once you've got your material, you're ready to bring it all together. Now, you may have heard the saying, fix it in post, but as somebody who's done their fair share of fixing,
I would advise you that the best course of action is to spot potential problems and correct them whilst you're still filming.
Now, it's worth mentioning that depending on the project, your output may only contain a visual, such as for a rolling display, or just audio for an installation in a museum. But for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll be using both.
Editing can take place on any number of platforms. These days you can even put a film together on your phone or tablet. But there are plenty of free and paid options out there. Our editing software of choice is DaVinci Resolve, but you can decide what works best for your hardware and your budget.
Now, this isn't an editing tutorial, so I'll just give you a brief overview on the next few steps. Your everyday editing goes a bit like this. The elements are brought into the program. Sometimes the audio may need synchronizing depending on the workflow, so I'm doing that here by matching the peak of the audio up with the clapperboard. Then I'm cutting my clips into the sections I want, making sure the volume's at the right level, adding transitions if necessary, titles, fades, and I'm ready to go.
If you enjoyed that quick look at production techniques... Now I could leave it at that, but what I wanted to show you are a few ways that you can take your work and elevate it.
Firstly, let's take a look at the sound. If I boost the levels, you can hear a fair amount of background noise. Using some of the default plugins, I can tidy that up. And then, by adding a bit of compression and EQ, the audio has been taken from this
If you enjoyed that quick look at production...
to this.
If you enjoyed that quick look at production techniques, you can...
One step closer to a high-quality product. Don't worry too much about the technicalities of what I'm doing. If you take the time to research and learn, all of these skills are available to you.
In a similar vein, let's take a look at colour correction and grading. Now, not all programs have this, but for the ones that do, if you take the time and effort, you can make what you filmed really stand out.
Setting the levels correctly can be the difference between your work looking amateur to it looking professional, so it pays to get it right. Then, if you want, you can even get creative and set the mood through your use of colour. You get the idea.
Next, if appropriate, you might want to think about adding in some sound design, music, or even graphics to help set the tone of the piece. All of these things are small enhancements to your work, but with the right application, they can make the world of difference. And these principles don't just apply to post-production. So here's a quick demonstration of what we mean. Now, if we take this plant, for example, I can take my phone and film it like this. And whilst there's nothing wrong with the footage, there is a lot that we can do to make it better. First, let's look at improving the production value.
A few drops of water to make the leaves seem fresh, and then adding something in the foreground and background to give a sense of depth and contrast.
Next, let's work with some angles and some movement. Camera work is often about getting the right placement, so here I found an angle that keeps everything visible without it feeling too cluttered or too sparse.
And then just to make it more interesting, I'm going to move around it so it's not just a static shot. Finally, I might want to get a bit closer and focus on key parts of the image I want to create.
All we need to do now is edit the colour and add some music in post, and we go from this to this. There are so many techniques when it comes to filmmaking that to cover them all would really take us an entirely new course. So what we've done is we've broken down several projects over the course of our journey to show you our progress and how we maximised the equipment that we had to hand.
Our first film profile was a chance to learn. We were new to the world of filmmaking, but that didn't stop us from being ambitious with what we wanted to achieve. To begin with, we had gotten a hold of a GoPro, a handheld recorder, some cheap blue morph suits, a simple reflector, a single palm-sized LED panel, some fake blood, and a second-hand tripod. It's important to recognise your limitations, which is why we chose to have almost the entirety of this film dependent on voiceover and sound design.
The US and Russia. I remained quiet.
Our recorder wasn't good enough to get clean audio outside, so we focused on things we could create afterwards. Vocal processing, sound effects, and music were all used to tell the story in place of location sound. A little later on, we see the equivalent with our visuals too. We carried out some basic chroma keying, underlaid some static AI-like footage we had designed in some free software, and made use of a so-called defect of our camera lens to make a shifting blur. We added a basic dust effect found on YouTube, reintroduced our sound design, and we ended up with a scene that was pretty admirable for our first attempt. Get Lucky was a short music video we filmed to showcase the movement talent of two physical theatre performers. At about the midpoint of our journey so far, we'd learnt how to get the most out of our gear, having increased the quality with each hurdle we'd overcome, and now had the confidence to try out something a bit more ambitious. The equipment we used on this shoot was as follows: a second-hand Blackmagic pocket cinema camera, a few basic lenses, a cheap fly cam, par cans with gels, reflectors, props, a tripod, and a fog machine.
It was at this point that we looked at the lesser thought of areas of filmmaking, namely getting music usage and the rights of it. But, by simply contacting the band that the performers had based the routine to, we were able to get usage and rights for the final product, which just goes to show, if you don't ask, you don't get.
As you can see in these opening few seconds, we had experimented with using different lighting placements and colours to set the scene, made use of the camera movement to grab attention, made sure our background was full of life by borrowing a few friends to be extras, and choreographing them to run around behind the camera to hide all the clever tricks. We even got a few pieces of furniture and props to create that club-like feel, and with the addition of some atmospheric smoke, we had a scene that we were really proud of. A bit later on, we also had this transition from night to day, which took more clever camera placement, movement planning, and then a bit of editing to splice it together. The very last aspect I want to highlight is our use of the morning golden hour. The Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera does best with natural lighting, so we brought out its full potential by shooting whilst the sun was at its most complementary angle for shadows and visual warmth. Just by taking the time to find out what works best for your camera and how you can plan ahead to get the most out of it really helps it to shine. Gehenna's Gate is a micro-budget horror film we carried out at the end of last year. At the time of this recording, it's currently doing the rounds of the film festivals, but we've pulled some clips to show you how far we've been able to come in the last 3 years. The equipment we used on this particular shoot was the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, an assortment of cinematic lenses, a HD external camera monitor, the Rode NTG3 supercardioid shotgun microphone, a Tascam DR701 mixer, a tripod, a Moser Air 2 gimbal, 2 large LED panels, a large reflector, a fog machine, fake blood, assorted props, and we also trained up a full team for our recently acquired network of custom-built post-production computers, helping us to improve our colour grading and overall professionalism in the edit.
Through you, I pass into the city of woe.
By now, much of the craft and quality that we had produced is second nature to us, but that doesn't mean that we can't find ways to up our game further. To get the most out of this Halloween short filmed in a tiny room, we carefully planned our shots and lenses to make the most of the space, and keep it feeling as locationless as possible. We also spent time on refining the feel of the imagery in the art design and costume, combining it with the use of natural low light, and optimizing our camera settings to bring home a perfect horror atmosphere. And if that wasn't enough, we even brought the final layer of detail into our soundtrack by paying homage to the classic Exorcist theme Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield.
So hopefully this has shown you that no matter where you are in your film career, there are always ways that you can improve and better yourself. But here we're going to go on to another area which is really important when it comes to filmmaking, and that's acquiring funding. I think what's really important about, at least in our experience of the last 3 years, is that we've discovered that there is no one way to get into filmic work. There are
There's quite a
so
variety
many
of
avenues. You can go down the classic film festival circuits and start submitting out to the film markets and those kinds of things, which is great. And completely encourage people to do that because it's a great opportunity to be seen and for your work to get seen.
But it can also be quite a long route.
It takes
time to really build up momentum that way.
It is, and it's one of those things where, again, it comes down to budget requirements. There's so much things as like certain filming grades and qualities you have to be matching.
You've got a lot of requirements to meet usually for film festivals and the sorts of things that they ask for.
There's a lot of red tape. Don't get me wrong, if you get into it and you get your short, your feature, whatever it is, submitted, it's a great opportunity, and I highly encourage people to do it. But it is not the only way forward. You know, we've done commercial work, we've done online stuff, we've done
we did a little
promotions.
We did a little series, didn't we, a few years back? What was that? That was like an exercise routine.
Yeah, we did. It was like an actors
training course,
fitness.
And that was good fun. I mean, we've taken on quite a variety of different stuff over the last couple of years. So we've kind of touched base with all these types of things. But Pete's right. I mean, there are lots of different avenues into the industry, and you can pick and choose. I mean, filmic work is so broad that you can decide what you want to do. And like us, take it all on if you fancy.
Yeah, and the important thing is to recognize a niche. Within the business side of things, like how you, like, it's all well and good to create niche projects and to lean into niche areas of creativity, which is wonderful. But when you're establishing a business, I think it's important to recognize where is an opening in the market and where I mean, this was a big thing for us setting up our limited company, was the fact that we recognized there was an opening for filmic work in our area. And we went for it, didn't we?
There was a demand that wasn't being met. And actually, that's a good point to come on as to why we chose to become a limited company. Because there are a couple of different types of business models. Depending on where you are in the world, there'll be different structures in place. But typically, you can kind of go down a few different routes. And we actually kind of operate in both of them as independent artists. We function as self-employed creatives, so it's a little bit kind of sole trader side. But as Fire and Iron, we function as a limited company.
I mean, if we break down what is a limited company against a sole trader, as a sole trader, you and the business are one and the same thing. You are legally liable for everything under that banner. You are essentially your own business. Through the terms of a limited company, the limited company becomes a body unto itself, and although we are the owners of Fire and Iron Productions, we are the directors of Fire and Iron Productions.
We're also
employees
by Fire and Iron Productions as a separate entity from ourselves, which, like Pete says, really makes it a lot tidier when it comes to legal obligations and that sort of stuff. It means that we can take risks as a company because we know that
we have legal protections.
Yeah,
we have legal safeties.
And like I said, that will differ from where you are in the world, but certainly here in England, limited companies are a really helpful way of keeping yourself protected whilst you're doing this sort of work.
Let's talk a little bit about how we worked out our pricing model. Let's talk about how we worked out garnering funds for projects. Let's go into a bit of depth for that, because that was an interesting road to start saying what is our worth. Yeah. What is this company that we have created? What is its worth? What is our service worth? What is our value worth? So just speak a little on how we formed that pricing model and how we worked that out.
Sure. So I think one of the most helpful pieces of advice when it came to this area of figuring everything out was to price yourself on how much it would cost to hire somebody else in. So if you imagine, say I'm being a sound person for the day and I kind of budget myself, what I should be really budgeting for is how much it would cost to hire in somebody else. Because that way you're kind of doing two things at once. You're looking at what the industry prices are, and if you do a little bit of investigation, you can find that sort of stuff out. So you're matching yourself at industry prices, but also then if anything does go wrong and you do need to hire external help, you're not suddenly at a loss. You can just go, right, okay, this person's not available today, that's fine, I'll put out a call for a sound recordist at this rate, and you're basically still working as you would normally.
And it's important, I suppose that's an important thing, isn't it? It's not undervaluing yourself. Like, undervaluing yourself doesn't help anyone.
No.
I know we definitely did in early years. We went down the routes of discounts, we went down the routes of trying to be, like, you want to be at a competitive rate, but a competitive rate shouldn't be underselling.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you can fall into the trap because you actually really enjoy what you do. You go, oh yeah, but
Yeah.
it's just something I love doing, you know. But no, there are rates that you can look out. There are standard rate cards, especially in this country, of what prices should be for a self-employed person, and then you can kind of work those into your business model. You also said something about funding, which, to be honest, has been quite a key part of how we have grown from
Hugely.
stage to stage.
Absolutely, hugely.
And those of you who are still under an institutional body like a university, there are usually some sorts of funds to help new businesses get started up.
Innovator programs.
Yeah, and so make use of whatever you can whilst you're under the umbrella of those university institutions. We had, you know, the fortuitousness of starting in our first year of university. We decided to make the company in our first year, and then over the course of the rest of our degree, we discovered all the other opportunities that were available to us.
Yeah.
But even if you're not, there are still plenty of other systems at play. Governments also have creative funds. There can be separate funds from governments, like you know, like independently backed financial stuff, which are looking for new material. Like we've said before, this industry is exploding. So, you know, there is the money out there. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of digging to find out what's applicable to you. And then pitching is a whole other question.
But I mean, that's the thing. Like we found funding through, you know, British Film Institute. We found it through councils. We found it through the university. The options are there. The opportunities are there. It's literally a matter of going out and seeking them out. Your university is 100% a great opportunity and really did help us. But yeah, local councils always want to put into arts funding work, always want to put into you know, startup businesses and innovators and those kind of things. So it is really important that funding is something that you make a conscious effort to go out and find, because it's not going to just jump in your lap, is it?
But making connections through the industry is a really great way of finding and accessing those funds. Partnering up with other people to apply for things, if you've got a joint project in mind, no matter what that is, can also be really helpful, because then you just join resources, join experience. But we've met quite a few people on our journey. So do you want to talk a little bit more about networking side of the industry?
Yeah, I mean, especially in the creative industry, networking is everything. The people that you are in education with right now, the people you are working with right now, who relate to this industry or relate to the course of training that you're on, or who just generally are interested in the same field of this industry that you're interested in. These are the people that you are going to be working with. These are the people that you are going to be taking work, you know, on with in the future. I mean, definitely in our early days, we started out in a university dorm room, sat talking with a GoPro, going, okay, we're going to make a film company, and heavily, you know, the success that we have experienced has definitely come through the people that we have met along the way, the people we trained with, the other companies that has surfaced since we established ourselves as a limited company.
And actually, just to come back on that funding point, other businesses in the startup innovation schemes.
Absolutely.
I mean, we pitched ourselves, like some of the advert work that we've done is to the other small businesses who are getting these other grants and getting these other support and stuff and are getting started up at the same time. It's great to network. It doesn't have to be the same industry as you.
No.
Networking is always brilliant. If you have your niche and you push it, you just go, hello, this is who we are. Then other people remember and they take that into their various different industries and they have you as a contact.
Businesses are always looking to promote themselves. You know, independents are always looking to promote themselves. There's literally so much opportunity to network. Going to film markets is a fantastic way of networking in the creative industry. Going on, you know, online talks. There's literally so many opportunities to network, and it's really is going to benefit you. The more you network now, it will benefit you later. Absolutely.
And just as a quick last little point, because I know you deal with this a lot of the time, do you want to just say a quick thing on marketing and distribution and how we actually get our business to come in, you know, and find that work?
Yeah, sure. So marketing, when it comes to the marketing side of any kind of product, it's your social media presence. That is a huge part of what you do. Make sure you are on all major social medias, your Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Get on LinkedIn. That is a really great one. Reaching out to clients it's an interesting one, because in experience, cold calling, it never gets a great response.
But it falls back on the networking, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to know them as a
You've
person.
got to know them as a
It always
person.
helps to have an in.
But it's also important to recognize that there is opportunity to expand. There is opportunity to meet people outside of your network and still pitch and get work from them and promote work to them, you know? Specifically in the film industry, you can reach out to larger publication houses and they will produce the work themselves. You can reach out to them about doing partial work with them on a project that they are doing. You know, you reach out to film sellers, you know, you send them a treatment, they'll look it over. If you've got some footage already made up and sent out to them, they will look that over, and then if they think that it's got something, that they'll point you in the right direction for investors and such.
And I think also as well is just quite literally your body of work. As you go on and as you grow as a company, the stuff that you've done before is a shining example of what you can do. So it's always worth putting in the extra time to make sure that the jobs you do carry out just exemplify your business. You want it to be the best example of what you can do as possible.
And this is the thing, like everybody starts somewhere. Nobody's coming into any industry, irrespective of what it is, bringing an absolute amazing A game from the get-go. Nobody does that. It's a learning process and you learn by doing, especially in the creative industry. So garnering that body of work, it's a lesson, it's an opportunity to learn, it's an opportunity to grow, it's an opportunity to make mistakes, which are important. But in making those mistakes, you learn and you figure out okay, that didn't work, we can make that better. And it all lends itself to when you are taking that final product and selling it to whoever it is that you want to sell it to, or selling that service to someone. You can show them a library of your skills, a library of your content that really encourages faith in the projects, really encourages faith in you as a company, and really encourages faith that you're going to do justice to their business and do justice to their product. Because that's what your clients care about. They care about the response to their product, the response to their service, and how you're going to help encourage and promote and show their service or product in a positive light.
Life in the creative industries can be difficult at times. Supporting jobs, strenuous workloads, demanding hours, pedantic clients, and sometimes people don't even know what you actually do for a living. But the important thing to remember is that you're doing what you love every single day. And there's no better career choice than that.
What's really important is to make sure you use every mistake as an opportunity to better yourself. Seize upon it, seize the opportunities as they present themselves, and most importantly, stay true to your original vision. We wish you all the best of luck and really hope to work with you in the future.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can contact us via email at info@fireandiron.org, or you can reach us through our website at www.fireandiron.org.